It's time for a sneak peek. Sneak peek, sneak peek.
I get people to do things because of my excitement, because that's how it works for me. If you come busting in the room, talk about, yo, listen to me, you need to do this, this, and this, I perk up and I'm like, what? But at the same time, if you start talking about things that I don't like, I recognize that too. And I'm like, nah, I'm not interested. I'm very good at I'm really good at knowing what I want, but I'm even better at knowing what I don't want. You know what I'm saying? So if I hear things that I'm just like, yo, nah, that doesn't sound like that don't sound like it, I'm out. SharePoint just sounded really good, but even more so, I was like, I can't wait to tell people about this. And so every day or every week or whatever it was, every few weeks, every month, whatever, I got to tell people about this thing and then show it to them and show them how it would make their life better.
When you're feeling the pressure, take a moment to step back, pick up your marbles, and choose to lead with levity. Join us on the Lead with Levity podcast for fireside chats that will fill your bucket and help you get back to being the leader you were meant to be. Now here's your host, Dr. Heather Walker.
Welcome to the Lead with Levity podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Walker, and I'm so excited to have this first conversation of 2025 and to share it with all of you. Today's guest is Therman Trotman. Therman is the CEO and lead trainer, right? You said lead trainer of the SharePoint Help Desk. Therman has gone from, hey, I am the worker bee, to now I have my own business, I'm doing my thing, and I'm thriving. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about some of the decision points that he made along the way, some of the challenges that he faced, and how he overcame some of those things. So Therman, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm always great.
You're always great. I know. You mentioned that earlier, and I was like, I've got to ask you about that. How are you always great? What is your secret? Do you have a special cup that you've got that I don't see over there?
Nah. No special drinks. Nah, it's just being grateful. You know what I mean? It's being grateful. And that always drives, like, that is how I wake up every day. I wake up grateful because I'm like, oh man, I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made it through sleep. You know what I'm saying? I got all my limbs. I can move everything. I have the freedom. I have the privilege to walk about my house, to open up the blinds and see the sun come in. I know this sounds like real, I don't even know what the word is, but it literally is the way my brain works. I'm just like, listen, I made it some point in my life where I completed the cake. Everything else after that is just ice. I'm like, right now it's all icing on the cake. It's just beautiful. So I really enjoy life.
Nice.
That's all it is.
You've somehow managed to avoid that, hey, I made it, now what kind of a feeling.
Yeah, it doesn't feel now what. There's decisions to be made every day, all the time, you know what I mean? But I'm enjoying myself doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just having fun at this point, because there was a time when I think that this is a personal thing, not like a group thing, but personally, I think life was rough at some point. Once I was able to navigate myself away from when it was rough, I mean, anything else after that, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Because one day there's going to be a day, I don't know what day it is, we don't know, that I won't be here anymore. I'm trying to make sure that I enjoy all of my time here. So, I mean, I wish I could say that I'm reading some script or something, but no, that's literally just the way my brain works. I'm like, how could you be mad type thing? Like, life could be way different than what it is for me right now. So just enjoying life.
Yeah. You know,
intentionally
is really the key, I think. And sometimes when I've been having these conversations with people who have gone through the most struggle, the most pain, heartbreak, things have been taken away from them, they've been treated unfairly, they really have the secret key to not just happiness, but gratitude and understanding what does it actually take to feel like, okay, this life is meaningful. And I'm always inspired by that, because you would think you have every single reason to be upset, to be like, you know, I'm done with this. But the guests that I have who have gone through something typically are the ones who have the most to share, the most to teach. And they're so willing to give back, because they understand that what they went through doesn't necessarily define them. It made them stronger in
Yeah,
some
facts.
ways. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you remember a few years ago that story about the kid who accidentally texted that woman on Thanksgiving, and she saw the text and was like, "Yeah, come over for Thanksgiving," or no, she accidentally texted him
Uh-huh.
thinking that that was her son, and she was like, "Yeah, come over for we're expecting you for Thanksgiving or whatever," but it ended up not being her son. Do you remember that story?
I don't remember that story. Tell me.
Oh, okay.
did,
This
did,
thing,
did he happen? Did he
yeah,
go?
yeah, 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 yeah. The whole thing followed through. Like the whole thing got posted on Twitter because the kid was like, "This woman just texted me." And it's like an accident. You know what I'm saying? She thought she was texting her grandson or son or son-in-law or something like that.
Yeah.
He responds and he goes, "Yeah, but can I still come through though?" She was like, she said, "Yeah, you could come on over." So he
Oh,
comes
wow.
over, they take pictures and they post it online and they're like, "Yeah, this whole thing happened by accident." Every year now, he goes back and visits her. Right. So he visits her for every Thanksgiving. They share it on, it used to be a Twitter thing. It popped off on Twitter, I believe, but they share it on social media
Mm-hmm.
and everybody looks forward to it every year. Right. So this year,
Yeah.
most recently, she announced she had breast cancer. And I'm
Oh.
like, oh man, this sucks. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I do like a post on LinkedIn every Saturday where I talk about something personal. Like intentionally, I'm like, yo, this is a break from work. Let's talk about something different.
Yeah.
And recently I was talking about this woman and her breast cancer. I'm like, man, this sucks. I can't believe it, whatever, whatever. Somebody else in my network posted, she commented and she said, listen, you might think this is bad for her, but look at that smile on her face announcing that she has
Mm.
breast cancer. I remember when I had breast cancer that a lot of people tried to bring that energy around me, but I wasn't choosing to have that energy. I was choosing to be like, I'm going through something, but this is gonna pass. You know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
want any negative stuff around me. She made me realize that as super positive as I am about myself and my life, that I unintentionally was placing negativity on somebody else's situation. I don't know
Wow.
what that woman is going through. I only know the surface of you got breast cancer. Oh man, this is crazy. This sucks. But really, she
Wow.
could be just like me in that this is what I'm placed with, but I'm choosing to choose joy. You know what I'm saying? To
Mm-hmm.
choose happiness because, I'm gonna, pray my way through the situation, do whatever I gotta do to get through this. But I don't need people coming around with their negative energy. So I wanted to point that out because that is part of my thinking too, which is like, I'm like her. Tragedy comes and I'm like, man, this sucks, but what choices can I make to get through it? But I didn't realize that in doing that, I was
Hmm.
also externally looking at folks and, saying, oh man, that sucks. When really I don't know. I had no idea what's going on with them. Just a headline.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I'm so glad that you brought that up because we're all going through something. And
Absolutely.
I can't remember if it was Puff Daddy. or I know he's probably the wrong person to even bring up right now.
Yeah, maybe.
but but someone brought this up that
What's up?
if you had an opportunity to sort of trade places, trade your struggles with someone else, and you really knew what they were going through,
Yep,
you probably wouldn't take that bag away from them. You probably
absolutely.
would say, you know what? I'm going to stick with my struggles because these struggles are something that it doesn't feel comfortable, obviously, but this is for me. This is
Yep.
something that's designed to make me better. This is something that I will ultimately be able to handle. And I I wouldn't pick up anyone else's or trade anyone else's struggles for a minute because I don't know what they're really going through or what
Yes.
they had to go through to get to the place where they are right now.
Totally agree. I used to think
Yeah.
like that when I was a kid. I would have been like, oh man, I want to be X, Y, and Z. I forgot when I made the shift, but I eventually was like, I don't know. I have zero idea what you're going through internally. Externally, even that may not look like, may not be what it looks like because you might be keeping something together.
Yeah.
But me, I know what's going on with me, and I'll take that. I'm not gambling with a switch off. You know what I'm saying? I'm good.
Exactly.
So I'm with you.
Exactly. I'm not gambling. So let's talk about how you got to this point where you're all enlightened and just sharing all this wisdom and everything. Where did you start? Can you walk us through your journey? Because before I hit record, we were going back and forth about kind of being from the Bronx and
Mhm.
all of that.
So kind of like, where did this mentality come from, you mean?
Let's talk about your journey.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
born and raised in the Bronx. My parents are from a different country. They're from Guyana. And they did the thing that, what folks do. They come here to give their kids a better life. So they come up here. They have me and my brothers and my sister. And born and raised in the Bronx. Now, I lived in Queens. I lived in Brooklyn, but really I spent my time in the Bronx. When I turned 18 and friends are leaving for college, I was a dirtbag student. I was just not good at school. My
Okay.
friends are leaving for college and or working, you know what I'm saying? And that's what they're doing. I had zero plan. I did not know what I was going to do. So there was a college in Mount Vernon in New York. I go to this college. This is before Google and all that stuff. So I had to look at the map on, where did I look? I don't know, a book or something. But I knew the bus and the train system. I had to take a bus to get to this college, and I was reading the back of the folder that gave me the address. It said, go here because this is the campus of that college. I take the bus. I get off the bus. As I'm walking to the college, a recruiter from the Army comes out of the door of his office, and he's like, hey, man, you ever thought about joining the Army? And I was like, nah,
Oh, they
I'm
got you.
yeah. He talked to me, but I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm headed to this college. He was like, all right, man, come see me on your way back. And I was like, maybe. I said I would, but I didn't really mean that because I'm like, bro, I'm going to college. Do you not see this? So, and I don't know nothing about the Army at this time. Walk up to where they said the college was. Zero college. There's no building there. There's nothing. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And I know I knew how to navigate my way through the streets. So it's not like I read the map wrong or whatever. But for whatever reason, no campus. So I turn back around. I see him on my way back. I'm like, yeah, what's good? What you want to talk to me about? That was September 7th. And I really don't have a good memory. So these little things I do remember. That was September 7th. September 30th, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? To the Army. So between educating myself between September 7th and September 30th was all I knew about the Army. Before that, it was like movies. So I go to the Army, and I always tell everybody who listens that is the greatest decision of my life. And I'm super happy about that because I made it by myself. I wasn't influenced by my parents or my friends or whatever, which fine if that would have happened. But I'm super happy to say that I was just walking, ran into a recruiter, and I made this decision. That changed the entire course of my life because it was in there where I first had this mentality shift where, so I hated books. That was another thing. I hated reading, you know what I'm saying, when I was younger. Because, look, let's just say I hated reading, right? When I was inside of the Army, when I got there, amongst all of these other things that I'm doing, a captain passed me a book. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
yes.
yeah, so I read this book because I had originally went to him and told him I had signed up for these 3 credit cards, didn't know what to do. He said, you ever heard of the debt snowball? I said, no. And he showed it to me. I did it. And because I did it, I guess he was like, all right, yeah, you do actually take action. Read this book. I read the book. During the course of reading the book, even though I don't remember the main key points, one thing stuck out to me. It was, instead of saying I can't, say how can I? Blew my mind. I had no idea that was even an option. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, if something seems too hard or I can't do it, I have the ability to say I can't. I didn't know I had the ability to be like, well, let me just change the words and say, how can I? And then my mind started shifting. I was just like, oh, there's a way to fix damn near everything.
Yeah.
And that's where the mentality shift came from. And that happened when I was 18 or 19 or something like that. So it happened very early in my adult life. And I took that with me for the rest of the way. That's where we are today.
Wow. Yeah, our minds are so powerful. I think that's one thing that really got me excited about psychology and just saying, oh, okay, I'm in the right field, because honestly, you could be in a mansion and your life sucks because of your mentality. Yes. Because of what you see around you and how you're interpreting everything that you see around you. And you could live on the street without a home and still be happy because of the way you're interpreting things. And that's the only difference there is your mind.
It's
right?
Your mind.
And the decision that you made to say, okay, this is what I see in front of me, but this is how I'm actually going to interpret that. So I think that's really powerful. And thank you for your service.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. I have to say thank you for your service. Those recruiters are so good. Like they're the best salespeople in the world. My brother
Yeah.
was in the Navy, and I remember they came to our house.
Yeah.
They
They go
sat
hard.
down. Yeah, they're like, all right, we're gonna make sure you get in because you don't like school. 'Cause my
Yeah.
brother didn't like school either. They were like, we're gonna make sure you fill out this form. We're gonna make sure that you
Yep.
know exactly what you need to do, and we're gonna be here for you, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
you reminded me. So back then, as an 18-year-old
mm-hmm.
and 17 to 16-year-old, I used to, partake in some things. You know what I'm saying? And I remember he had to buy like some pills or whatever to have me drink the stuff to get it out of my system. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
And I
wow.
remember he he went super hard with that because I was being lazy about it. I was just
Mm-hmm.
being nonchalant about it. So thank goodness that he did that. That's a long time ago. I don't partake in those things anymore. But that was what he had to do, and he did it because he's like, yeah, I got to get you inside of here. If it was a
Mm-hmm.
regular person, they wouldn't have been so pushy, I imagine, and have been like, oh, this person's not serious. I'm not dealing with them.
They're
But
not
he was,
ready.
yeah. I'm glad he still took that shot because again, changed the course of my life. It's the greatest decision ever.
Nice. So fast forward, you're working in IT. Did you pick that up from your time in the military?
I honed it in the military.
Okay.
I was again fortunate that my father big on education, big. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things he did for me and my brothers was he way back in the days, 99, bought a computer. Like he bought the monitor, the desktop, all of that, and sat it in the house. This thing was probably $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
huge too.
And
right?
big. Yeah, right. Like humongo, right? And bought it. And so I got to touch a keyboard, move around a mouse, see what a computer works, how a computer works. Sure it had Windows on it, all this other stuff. Then my brother, he took a liking to the physical part of it. So he opened it up, was taking things out, replacing pieces, blowing my mind because I would not have done that. I would have just been on the surface.
Mhm.
I go to the Army, and inside of the Army, my job was supposed to be a 31 uniform, which is like the guy in charge of communications. So I still did that. But because of the types of units that I went to, I was doing more of what was called a 74 Bravo's job, which is computers. So supporting the computers. So because I was supporting the computers, I got to do that. And I did what my brother did, which was I was a lot of hardware. I touched a lot of the hardware. Thank goodness for my brother and one of my sergeants. And then once I got out is when I was like, hardware out. Let's move on from hardware. You know what I'm saying? Now I discovered this thing called software, but it was more so like in the web and eventually SharePoint. And I'm like, okay, this thing is way better than crawling under desks and replacing hard drives and all that stuff. So yeah, I honed it in the military, but I knew about it before I got in there.
And I'm curious about your journey, your transition from sort of working in IT to saying, okay, I'm going to start the SharePoint Help Desk.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you narrow it all down to, I'm doing SharePoint. This is my niche. Don't talk to me about anything else. This is it.
Yeah. Well, at risk of sounding cheesy again, I didn't choose it. It chose me. I was a VTC tech. So after the Army, I did the Guard for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in the Guard, it was in a Maryland Guard because my mom's, she was like, when you come out of the Army, don't go back to New York. Come to Maryland because it's way cheaper to live down here.
Mm-hmm.
I did that reluctantly, but I chose the Maryland Guard because she said that. She said, come down here. So I said, all right, I'll do a year in the Guard. I'll do it in Maryland. While I'm there, on the tail end of my year finishing up, somebody drops a job fair flyer. I get a job as a government contractor. From there, it's all history. That was my first year. I was making like $26,000 a year. And then
all right, big money.
Right. A few years later, I'm rocking and rolling as the IT person in that shop. There was a lot of older folks there, so they looked to me for everything IT. And one of those things was my main job, which was setting up people to use the VTCs, the video teleconferencing systems. So big, convoluted, confusing, chunky stuff, but I knew how to use it. And part of what they used to do was schedule an appointment with me. I'd check my calendar, whatever I was using, get them scheduled, meet them at the room when it was time, run the stuff, shut it down, do all of that, right? They brought SharePoint to the organization, and one of the points of contact there told me, he was like, you could like set this thing up to run by itself, automate it.
Wow.
In other words, automate it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Sign me up. And then once he did that, like that was one of the initiatives to automate the scheduling. Once he showed me that, I could not unsee what I saw, because I'm like, how are we operating in this organization the way we are right now when this is at our fingertips? So from there, I just became like, I was singing SharePoint's praises. You know what I'm saying, like, since then. And that was back in 2009.
I
So
understand.
that's how I got here.
I've had that philosophy myself as an employee. If I have to do this same thing more than 3 times, I've got to find a way to automate this, because this is not okay.
But back then, I didn't know that. I didn't even know you could automate a thing. That was news to me.
Okay, so my selfish question for you is this.
Okay.
Because I told you today I'm asking some selfish questions. I'm throwing some in there.
Yeah.
As a psychologist, as a business psychologist, there are so many things that we can do and different areas that we can go into. I know it's similar with IT. There's the hardware, there's the software, there's the networking, there's all kinds of stuff that you could get into. And you might be interested in a lot of different things. As a business person, though, especially starting out, a lot of the advice is you got to focus. You got to focus. You got to find a niche. You got to know who your target audience is and focus on one channel, one product, one service, make that go. And then you can start to build out more and more and more after that. And I found that to be kind of true for myself as well, where it's great to do everything, but if it's just you and a small team, it doesn't make sense, right? And then your message gets all watered down because people are like, all right, are you talking to me? Like, what you're saying is great, but I don't know if this is exactly for me, right?
Right.
So my selfish question for you is, when you said, okay, I'm going to focus on SharePoint, did SharePoint really find you? Did you have to do some analysis to say, okay, I've been working in government, so I think this is the group that I want to continue to work with. I've been doing SharePoint stuff, so was it based on your experience, or was it based on some analysis? How did you come to that place?
Oh, it was based on my excitement, like my energy. Like if somebody describes to me, hey, we should go on this vacation.
Yeah.
And then they do a good job of describing this vacation of what it's going to be, and I've never even been there before, I'm in. I do not need any more information. I will make that decision right there. If you speak to me, if you say the things that I like to hear, you start saying, oh, it's sunny X amount of hours out the day. It's like a relaxed environment. You know what I'm saying? The people are mad fun. The food is mad good. Stop. Sign me up. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. So what happened with me was that automated process that they did for me when they showed me how I could change the way I was doing things. So people wasn't calling me to set something up, or if they were, I was sending them a link. I was saying, hey, you could just go to this link, look at the calendar, see if it's free, and schedule yourself in. And then I'll get a notification and I'll handle you. I'll meet you at the room and I'll take care of everything. That right there was the vacation. That was the thing being explained to me. When I was seeing it with my own eyes, my wheels start turning. I'm like, all of these people here at this organization could use this thing. This is too good for me to just keep it to myself. So that's when that right there is something that I talk about a lot. It's not an IT thing. That's not a employment thing. That's just me personally, who I am and how I operate. Because if I see a movie, if I see a TV show, and I think this TV show is really good, I think I'm pretty damn good at selling people on that show. You know what I'm saying? Like I get people to do things because of my excitement, because that's how it works for me. If you come busting in the room, talking about, yo, listen to me, you need to do this, this, and this, I perk up and I'm like, what? But at the same time, if you start talking about things that I don't like, I recognize that too. And I'm like, nah, I'm not interested. I'm really good at knowing what I want, but I'm even better at knowing what I don't want. You know what I'm saying? So if I hear things that I'm just like, yo, nah, that doesn't sound like that don't sound like it, I'm out. SharePoint just sounded really good, but even more so, I was like, I can't wait to tell people about this. And so every day or every week or whatever it was, every few weeks, every month, whatever, I got to tell people about this thing and then show it to them and show them how it would make their life better. It was a little bit of a struggle, and I went through some growing pains and learning about my career and learning about it's not about the IT, it's about people. It's a whole thing that I learned throughout the years. But the initial jump was because it looked exciting. And I make decisions based off of two things. If it's going to be fun, yes or no, and is it going to raise or lower my stress? That's it. That's how I make decisions. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm oversimplifying, but I'm not really. That's really how I make decisions.
No, I appreciate that, because I work with high performers who are used to doing things out of a sense of responsibility, a sense of, I have to do this for my family. I have to do this for my boss. I have to do this. They do things because they have to do, not because they want to do or because it's fun. Or maybe they wanted to do it way back when, but now it feels like a trap almost.
Right.
So I love that your criteria, is it going to raise or lower my blood pressure, and is it actually fun? Is it something that I want to do? So I want to get into SharePoint Help Desk, and I also then want to go back to something that you said before about some of the challenges that you had to overcome.
Okay.
Because some IT people need to hear about that. It's not just about the tech. It's about the people too, right?
Yep.
So in a nutshell, what is the SharePoint Help Desk all about?
So I teach you how to use SharePoint. That's it. You know what I mean? And all of the different ways that I do that through marketing and through consulting and through development and all this other stuff, there's all different angles. But the main crux is teaching people how to use SharePoint. That's it. And the reason why is because I did it for years. I saw me change the way people work. I just know. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you have to take a gamble, right? And you're gambling because you're like, I don't know if this is going to work or if this really is a viable solution. I have a lot of data, 17 plus years of data that tells me I know that if you give me the opportunity, I'm going to help you. Matter of fact, just last week, I had to put together 2 intranets for 2 different companies. And the latest one, we get on a call. This is me doing the demo. So the process was like, somebody put me in contact with them. And I was kind of even reluctant to take them on because I'm like, man, I have to come up with a better system of having people in the door, doing something repeatable and getting them taken care of. But I trusted the person who requested it to me. And then this was like a very specific customer that was like great for me. So I was like, all right, fine. Take them on. We have the initial call. I'm like, all right, I'll take care of you. Then I go, I do my work, get in my lab, you know what I'm saying, cook something up. And then I come back. And during this meeting, I'm seeing head nods. I'm seeing, oh, this is perfect. Therman, this is great. I live for that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But not because they're talking about me. They're not talking about me. Like, I mean, I'm like a bonus. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how to talk to people.
You're solving a problem that they have.
I'm solving a problem that they have, yes. And when I see them lighten up saying, yes, this is what we want, that makes me feel really good because I that's like my love language is acts of service. So that makes me feel really good. And then number 2 is it fills my cup up, and it's just more validation that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. To be blunt, I know that this thing is gonna work. So that's why I have it now that I'm just like, I have to tell the rest of the world, and whoever bites, if you come into my ecosystem, you're going to find out that this thing is going to change your life. It will make your life better because your stuff is scattered all over the place or you're buried in spreadsheets. We're going to change all of that. That's just how it's been for, I don't know, 17 plus years, like I said.
I love that you have that focus, and I can tell in just your energy that you still are very passionate about it. It's not like
Extremely.
You've gotten bored. It's not like you're like, oh, I wish I could add Office 365, or I wish I could add this, or I'm ready to move on and just expand into some other thing. You're still very, very passionate about that. And when you say, I'm bringing people into my ecosystem, I think it's really inspiring for anyone who's thinking about starting their own business. How do you set up that ecosystem? Because a lot of times when people are thinking about starting their own business, they think about things. They're not thinking about the right things. They're thinking, oh, I need a website. I need business card. I need this. I need that. But they're thinking about the service itself, but they're not thinking about the sales, the marketing, how am I going to make sure that I'm speaking to the right people and getting in front of the right people? So you have a podcast, for example. Is that the main way that you get people into your ecosystem?
That's one of the ways. The main way is LinkedIn. People find out about me because of LinkedIn. I go on LinkedIn, I talk about SharePoint, and I do it in a way that's different than other people who talk about SharePoint. So I like to tell stories. I like to connect with people. I like to reduce the amount of tech that I'm talking about and speak more about strategy and the way businesses can use it, because that's what I have figured out over the years, that's what's important. It's not the technology. Technology is kind of like the easy part. The hard part is people and teams and working together and having a project and focusing on the right thing and all this other stuff. That is way more important than the technology that you're going to use. Exactly. I just happen to know that you are paying for Microsoft 365 and there's a tool inside of there that's better than what you're doing right now, and I can show you how to use that. That's my angle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But now my pipeline is usually LinkedIn, but it's social media. And then once you get in there, it's more so my email list. Like I love to nurture you on my email list.
How do you get people into your email list?
One of the primary ways is by doing work for you. So if I get you in the door, like this last customer I was just talking about, they're now on my email list. You will be getting emails. So that's one. And then two is if you sign up for something that I offer. So for instance, one of the angles of getting people in the door is telling them that we can eliminate your spreadsheets. Because it's true. I can get rid of your spreadsheets. If you have 8 or 9 of these spreadsheets, over time we work together, you'll see how that was a crazy way of working, and this is better. So we do that. But the way that I get you to do that is by telling you, if you go to this link, it's called SharePointFreebie.com. If you go to that link, there's a free download there that will introduce you to using lists versus using spreadsheets. So I'm offering you that value up front for free very quickly. I don't want to bog you down. I just want to show you the ropes real quick. Now you're on my email list. So from there, I just keep showing you every week, here's an episode of my podcast, but then also here's some links from around the web from me about things that you might find helpful. It seems to be resonating. I'm very excited about it, actually. It's more human because people are on the end of my email, opening my email, clicking on things and viewing and going through those things. It feels way more personal than, I know social media is, quote, social, if you want to go there. You know what I'm saying? Email is, even though it's a one to many connection, like me saying something to a bunch of people, you don't have to respond to interact with me. You can respond to the things that I'm sending you. If I see you clicking on links and doing all other stuff, that means I'm providing you something that you find interesting, and that makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm on to something here. So yeah, email is just better than social media with the algorithms and all that. But I need social media. So.
Yes. I think we all have kind of made the decision. We've all resigned ourselves to the fact that we have to be on social media. I personally got off the train with MySpace. But I'm still here. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, y'all. You can find me. But really and truly, my heart has left social media because of the algorithms and all of that. I remember there was one day I woke up and I thought, I wonder what happened to this friend. We haven't talked in a while. I haven't seen them post anything in a while. Are they okay? This is when I woke up to the algorithm. And I went to their page on Facebook and they were posting every day, all of this stuff, and it never made it to me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I found out, I am only getting served up certain content with certain people at certain times. And it was all driven by this algorithm. And if I'm not careful and I just consume it and I don't go out there and actively look for some things that I'm interested in, my focus online is starting to get narrower and narrower and narrower. And now I'm only seeing a couple of people who I think are really entertaining. And I'm losing friends or I'm losing family members because it's just out of sight, out of mind. I'm not going to their page. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what helps them. You know what I'm saying? So if they can serve you up, figure out what you can't even control yourself to watch, they're going to give it to you. You know what also as good as email? Maybe even more powerful is podcasts. And let me tell you why. Because right now, as I sit here on this podcast, I get to do something that I can only do so much of in text on an email.
Yeah.
Is I have like this process that I tell tech people how to talk about tech, and it's tell stories, say it with your chest, make it about the other person, right? I get to do that sitting on your show here. You know what I'm saying? And I compare it to being an artist. Like if you're a musical artist, we all listen to music and you have your favorites. If your favorite did a feature with somebody you never even heard of and they made like a good song, what happens usually? That person is now on your radar.
Yeah.
And if they were good enough, you go, let me go check out the rest of their music. And these days, as we stream, if they're that good, you add them to your playlist or whatever you do to keep listening to this person's music. And now you want to hear more from them as they keep dropping music. That's how I look at being on your podcast. Just you having me here, super grateful. But it's up to me to drop a good verse or sing properly or make myself, sound good. And if I did a good job and made your fans happy, or your listeners, as I like to call them, if I made your listeners happy, then they're happy with you for putting them on to me. They're happy with me extendedly if I have something to offer them. And now us together, this energy, it's like, oh man, really like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it feels like music to me. That's how this whole process feels.
Exactly. I love that you added say it with your chest.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
Saying you got to make people believe you. But I think it's easy to say it with your chest if you really do believe in what you're selling.
Yeah. So I believe that our listeners would be very, very happy if you shared maybe something about how does SharePoint connect to culture?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think that you can use technology to drive X. Like I don't see it that way. I see you as using X to drive Y, and then technology supports it. So if you have a culture without any technology involved whatsoever, you can create your culture, period. It just so happens that we have all these other things. You need technology to
make life a little bit easier. Yes.
make life a little bit easier. That's what it does. It supplements what you're already doing. So, like how I could go to somebody's platform on social media and be in the comments and look at the videos and see the branding and all that other stuff and feel like I'm a part of some type of culture. You know what I'm saying? Like we all know about this thing. This is cool.
Yeah.
That's what's up. And if it's a company doing it, it's going to be like, man, I love this company's like vibe. Like Wendy's. Everybody knows how Wendy's posts. They love the posts from Wendy's online. And it's like, that culture seems cool and fun or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that internally, think about what that might do. Like if you're able to do that internally, SharePoint is something that allows you to do that internally. You can create your culture, make sure you got that, create and nurture your culture, but then also allow the technology of SharePoint and the other tools in the Microsoft 365 suite to support that. Let's say, for instance, here's a very specific example. Let's say, for instance, you are a CEO and you like to send out a short video at the end of every week to send people into the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
If you have SharePoint as your intranet, a great place to post that video is on the intranet. Everybody gets used to knowing that our CEO, whatever the CEO's vibe is, they're reliable, and we know that every week they're gonna post something on the site. We get to comment about, chit chat about it, whatever, and then move on with our day. But we know that we can rely on the CEO to do that.
Yeah.
Then, as the CEO continues to do that, there's a historical record of it. So if I just come to the organization, I don't miss it. I could just go to look at the button that says CEO weekly announcement or something like that, and I get to see, oh, this person's been doing this every week, and I get to see the vibe of the company with people making jokes inside of the comments, all this other stuff. Like, this is something that SharePoint can support for you. But I want people to understand and remember that if there was no SharePoint, let's say there was no SharePoint, if the CEO wants to get a weekly message out, they're going to figure it out.
Email.
They still want to they would use email.
Yes.
It's just that SharePoint now says, not only do you get to have a place like a website, not like a website to post that, but here's the historical record. Hey, we could throw in some comments because, email will silo your conversations.
Right.
But if we put it on the internet, there's no more silo. We all get to see it. The CEO responds even. You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff supports your already created and running culture. That to me is what I think people in my industry miss. They forget that, it ain't just about building and they'll come, because that's not a real thing.
Very cool. I hadn't thought about SharePoint in that way. I like that application of it. Thank you.
Oh, good.
And so I want to make sure that we're sending people to the right place, because freebie can be spelled in a couple of different ways.
Yeah. I thought about that the other day. Yeah.
So SharePoint, freebie. How do you spell freebie?
Freebie.
B-I-E. See, I already misspelled that.
Would you spell with a Y?
No, Freebee, which is it's probably not right either.
It's not, but I think I'm going to go buy that, and I probably should buy BY as well and send everybody there. So
just in case, for all the people out there who don't spell correctly.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much.
Them all up. Yes, thank you. So if anyone is interested in learning more about you and what you have to offer, of course, they can check out the SharePoint Help Desk podcast. But where else do you want them to go?
LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I used to be on LinkedIn every single day. I used to post every single day. Now I'm on LinkedIn every day, but I don't post every day because I'm like I said, I'm leaning way more into my email list. So I'm saving the great stuff for the email, but the social media still gets the good stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Sounds good. Therman, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and the insights that you gave. And y'all, if you are interested, I think that you could definitely figure out how do we fit this into our culture and use this technology to support what we're doing. So take care and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lead with Levity podcast. To get resources mentioned in this episode and find out what we're all about, check us out at leadwithlevity.com.